in a court of law, there's something called a fact pattern. What has been the fact pattern for the last 7 years? The establishment have tried to destroy my former boss, whether it was a joint FBI, CIA, NSA operation called Crossfire Hurricane to try and penetrate the then candidate's presidential campaign, never happened before in history, whether it's a former FBI director called Robert Mueller trying to prove for 20 months that there was so-called Russian collusion, that failed as well. Then one impeachment, then two impeachments, then the FBI raiding his home in Mar-a-Lago. This is just another example of political persecution. If there were justice, this would not be happening. There's only one reason this is happening. He isn't just the former president. He is the leader of the opposition. He is the putative candidate for the Republican Party. This is all about one thing: preventing my former boss from running for the presidency for a second time.
Sebastian, I've been reading some of the quotes that have been coming out overnight. We've got Stormy Daniels saying, the lady who is apparently at the centre of all of this is the one who received the money, apparently, saying there is going to be violence, injuries and death. And Trump himself has said, there will be death and destruction if I am indicted. Is he already whipping up his supporters in the way that he did on the 6th to actually do something pretty violent? I mean, he is being a bit over the top here, isn't he?
Well, first things first, I don't take national security advice from a former porn star who had to pay $300,000 in damages to President Trump in a defamation suit that she lost. On top of that, President Trump is right. There are going to be lots of people who see this as an assault on the fabric of the nation. Just the figures. The last time we had a presidential election, President Trump received 74 million votes. That is more votes than any other incumbent president in U.S. history. And a lot of people are going to see this, as I do, as political persecution. We don't want violence. There's one party in America that is fine with violence. That's the Democrats. Whether it's supporting Black Lives Matter or Antifa, they are the people who have normalized violence. It's not us. It's not the conservatives. So, God willing, there will be no violence. But we see this for what it is, a political hatchet job.
I mean, look, we've got to put that straight. The Democrats would absolutely refute that they've normalised violence. I mean, you know, that would be something they would really kick back against. But there is a question here as to whether there are. I mean, some people have said that people are searching for a crime to pin on Donald Trump. Yeah. I mean, but there are some. I mean, surely there are some dodgy dealings going on, aren't there, that need to be looked into? I mean, he is a man who is, despite all his promises. I mean, for example, you're trying to get hold of his tax returns was a nightmare. They were never ready. There are questions around him, aren't there? Don't they need to be answered?
Well, let's put, the facts of the matter before all of your viewers. The left has normalized violence. Black Lives Matter and Antifa, according to the National Assurance Association, caused $2 billion worth of damage with their rioting and looting for 2 years. The current incumbent of the White House's Vice President, Kamala Harris, actually campaigned to get bail money to release BLM rioters and arsonists from prison. That's normalization of violence. That's factual. When it comes to this case, let's be clear here. This is about an NDA agreement, a non-disclosure agreement, which is absolutely par for the course in business. I'm no porn star, but I signed an NDA agreement with President Trump in 2015 when I became his national security advisor on the campaign trail. There's nothing untoward to that. Not only that, the primary witness in this is President Trump's former attorney, former lawyer called Michael Cohen, who is a convicted felon, who is convicted of what? Convicted of perjury. And that's the star witness for the Democrat prosecutor, who, by the way, another interesting tidbit, was funded to the tune of $1 million by George Soros's foundation, the same district attorney who, when he was campaigning with George Soros's money, said, my goal is to put Donald Trump in jail. That doesn't sound like an independent, unbiased officer of the court.
Sebastian, I see that one of the headlines in the British press is quoting someone saying that actually criminal charges against Trump will be seen not as a setback, but an opportunity. What does that tell us about members of the American electorate who would actually be prepared to vote into the office of state of the President of the United States, a man who is charged with an illegal offence?
Well, I'd start with the principle in American law that comes from British law, that we are presumed innocent until we are proven guilty. The burden is upon the state. We had the recently ejected Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, tweet the following yesterday: Donald Trump will have an opportunity to prove his innocence. Excuse me, former Madam Speaker, that's not how it works. We don't have to prove our innocence in America. We are innocent until proven otherwise. The bottom line is, I think that statement is correct from that headline. It's like that scene from the original Star Wars movie where Alec Guinness says to Darth Vader, if you strike me down, I will be stronger than you can ever imagine. This is actually a very dumb, asinine move by the Democrats. If they go through with this, if they handcuff President Trump, if they fingerprint him at central booking in Manhattan, that will actually make him stronger than he will ever be. Why? Because apolitical individuals, people who really weren't Trumpers or Republicans, will say, hang on a second. 7 years ago, Stormy Daniels signed an NDA, and now you're charging President Trump with a felony. The statute of limitations on what they are charging him with, which is discrepancies in a business statement, actually expired 5 years ago. People are going to say, nah, that's rubbish. I don't buy it.